I don't want
Because
AI to do lighting design for me. It's the opposite.
no,
I want AI to actually make my lighting design better. It's not
yeah.
AI is not going to replace lighting designers. They're not. Nobody will be able to be replaced when they have that wealth of knowledge in a particular subject. And AI is nothing more than a tool that learns. So if you actually teach them the wrong things, it will give you the wrong result. It's important that we train our models in the most appropriate manner and by the people that know the subjects. Any mistakes that you make on training your models, or your agents, then cannot be erased from their memories. It feels that you need to restart training something different in order to get the right result. All of your work can go quickly to the bin if you actually make a mistake on that front.
Juan Ferrari, welcome to Light Talk.
Thank you, Martin. It's a pleasure to be here with you. It's a pleasure to actually have conversations with you in any platform, and in this platform.
It has been quite a while since we last spoke. That's for sure.
Yeah.
But I'm having you here because I want to talk about AI and the future of lighting design. But before we dive into that, give me a little bit of your background. A lot of people know you, but there's also probably some of our audience that don't know you. So good if you gave us a bit of your background in terms of where were you born, what did you study, how did you get into the position you are today?
It's a very convoluted journey, as most of the lighting designers in the industry. I'm Argentinian. I was born in Buenos Aires many, many, many years ago. I'm not going to tell you when was that, but many years ago. You need to trust me there. I trained as an actor, and then I started directing theater, and then I actually started performing, and then I started getting involved in all of the technical aspects of theater, and technical aspects that I liked the most was lighting, and I became kind of an accomplished theater lighting designer. To the point that I started doing things that I were over and above what I thought I knew. So I came here to the UK to study theatre lighting design. I studied at the Royal Central School of Speech and Drama. I did my course there. I did a BA in light and in theatre lighting, and from there on, while I was at university, I started shifting my attention to architectural lighting. I find it fascinating that the narrative that we had in theatre, and that I have actually lived as an actor and as a director and as a lighting designer in theatre, didn't naturally exist in architectural lighting. So I actually started paying attention to that and starting exploring that, to the point that I ended up working in architectural lighting. So I got my first job as an architectural lighting designer in a company called Equation that has now changed hands. Is the actual Equation, is the GIA Equation, but at that point, Mark Hensman was actually the director at Equation, so I started working there. I met some of my colleagues, my current colleagues at Hoare Lea there, in particular Jonathan Rush, and John then moved to Hoare Lea, and I moved shortly after. And since then, we have actually been developing the lighting team for Hoare Lea, first under the direction of Dominic Merrick, and now under our own direction. So between me, Jonathan, and Ruth Kelly-Waskett, we are actually running the lighting design department of Hoare Lea, which is and again, a very well recognized and well established lighting design department in its own right, within a massive, really big engineering company that is also part of a even bigger multinational company called Tetra Tech. So that's my role at the moment. I direct a team of 25 people in lighting design. They're lovely. They're really, in my view, the most creative people that I ever actually met, with a enormous understanding of the technical knowledge that you need to have in order to deliver the best quality lighting design possible. So yeah, that's my role currently, and I love talking. so I do a lot of talks, and I am
No.
very
You're
curious.
there to talk.
That's why I end up. So I'm quite curious also, Martin. So that's why I ended up working and exploring AI. which is another big story, another long story in its
We'll
own
get
right.
to that. We'll get to that. I've got a cheeky question. Has the fact that you have been an actor been of
Yes,
help in your in your profession when meeting clients or
I think that I actually I think that I it helps communicating anything that you do
yeah.
to understand your body, to understand the way that you express yourself, to understand the emotions that
Mm,
you feel while
mm,
expressing,
mm.
and any sort of register that you get of your own tools, of your own
Yeah,
physical
yeah,
and
yeah,
emotional tools, is quite helpful in any environment. So yes, it helped me. It to be honest, one of the most important things for me is to be able to communicate properly. And lighting is a very difficult. It looks very easy, but it's very difficult to communicate in words. Uh,
yeah,
and uh, I think that my theatre background have helped me enormously
yeah,
there. And then the notion that lighting is a tool that actually tells stories and that has a narrative. It has
yeah,
all of that piece of work of mine is based on my
yeah,
experience in theatre, really. So it's a
yeah.
yeah, it has helped me a lot. Yes.
Yeah, I think it's a great combination because in theater lighting, your focus is technically on the actors when you light, but in architectural lighting, it's more about lighting the architecture. So I think that combined knowledge, I think, is great. But I
Yeah,
want to come to AI.
and also in architecture, it's not only lighting the architecture; it's lighting for people using it. So,
Yes.
although
Yeah.
we don't necessarily experience
Yeah.
our lives as a play or as a narrative too. We don't feel that our lives are a story. We are
Yeah.
actually living through emotions in the same that we are living through emotions a play. So it's quite
Mm.
important that lighting takes into account the feelings and the journeys that people have within the architectural spaces, and that's one of the most important things for me.
So let's jump into AI straight away. At what point of time did you get caught by the AI bug?
Yeah. I actually, that's why it's quite funny. I do a talk about AI, and I actually expose myself quite in a big
Mm,
manner in that particular
mm,
talk because I'm a user of AI and user and abuser of AI. So
mm,
I started playing with AI on a journey to Birmingham. Actually, we were in the car and particularly with ChatGPT. We were in a car a few years ago, and one of my colleagues that was traveling with me shared with me this new thing that had come out called ChatGPT,
mhm,
and and I asked ChatGPT a particular question about lighting, and it answered it in a way that I couldn't answer it, even if I was given an hour or two to respond to that particular question. I was like, wow, this is quite impressive.
mm,
Because in a microsecond,
mm,
all of a sudden, I get an answer that was quite solid, and it was very much technically sound, um, and I thought this is quite interesting. So the IALD was doing their enlightening conference and calling for papers, and I actually composed a paper completely with AI about AI and lighting,
mm,
but that without me knowing a lot about AI. And the paper got
mm.
selected, so all of a sudden I had to learn about AI in order to present about AI, which is
Yeah.
a which is an unfortunate fortunate situation. It was a little bit cheeky from me, and that was quite a successful talk because, as I say, I exposed myself into a point in which I said, look, I don't know anything about AI. I just put this into an AI, and I prepared a presentation all through AIs, and then this is my story. um,
Right.
if you fast forward, this was 3 years ago now, almost two and a half years ago,
Mhm,
and if you fast forward to today, I am actually constantly training myself on these new tools and
mm,
in AI that are available to us. I'm playing with all of them. I use them on a regular basis. I encourage people. I think that my mission on this particular front is to encourage people to use it. Some people are quite
mm.
scared. They have ethical concerns. They have moral
Yeah.
concerns. They have all sorts of concerns. And the only way of actually making this tool a
Mm.
lesser problem is using it. So I'm encouraging people to use it.
I'm a bit like you because I mean I just got late last year or something. I got in touch with it, and then I know if you have seen, but I'm promoting an AI course for lighting designers, which
Yeah.
I'm doing with an AI specialist, which like you,
Hmm.
he's an architect. He's been in this for the last couple of years. He knows everything of AI. He dreams and lives AI. But I feel also a bit reluctant and a bit overwhelmed by all the possibilities. And you talked about the tools 2 years ago. Well, you see what speed they evolve and develop. So what's possible today? But for me, the reason to jump in is to be the reason to be. You see, I've got 45 years of experience in lighting design, so I can actually sort of being the challenger and the reasoning behind what AI throws at us, and look at it through the lighting design expertise that I have and say, well, is this correct? Yes. And like you say, what comes back is sometimes amazing, like really the knowledge. So yeah, I think it's important to have that balance, and you can't better learn, I think, than really diving into it and embracing it, because there's no way we can go around it. It's there. It's there for us to. It will be like the mobile phone. It's something that's going to be there as a new revolution, and if you're not in it, you're not going to win it. That's for sure.
That,
So
that
talking
is
about
that is
tools, go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I think that is spot on. I think that you need to be able to use it and to be in it. There is something generationally. It's a really interesting conversation. The generation conversation. It's like we did within our lifetimes. We went from a pencil and a piece of paper, yeah,
Hmm.
to a typewriter. I would put myself in that category. Yeah, but to
Hmm.
a
Yeah,
to a
same here.
computer, yeah, to the internet and to AI. And we did that. I'm going to disclose my age now. I'm 50. Yeah. So within 50 years, I've done that. My journey took 50 years. If you
Hmm.
think about it, our kids, yeah, nowadays, learned all of that in a period of 10 years.
Hmm.
So imagine how much all of this tool related
Hmm.
relationship that we have with our profession, any of our professions, will
Absolutely.
evolve in the next 40 years for them. What will come, we don't know, but it's going to be definitely at the pace that we are currently exploring it. So it's going to be
Absolutely.
magical, you know. So it's incredible the amount of change that is ahead of us. So what we need to build in ourselves is the possibility of
Yeah.
being flexible and
Yeah.
and grab these tools that are given to us. And today, yeah, we're in 2025. The tool that we are using, or a lot of people are using, is Chat GPT or DeepSeek, or but tomorrow it will be another one, and the day after it
Could
will
be.
be another one. You know, so what you need to be able is to become permeable to all of these tools that are coming to use to you to be able to
Yeah.
use it. And the way of really
Yeah.
using them is having a reason to use them. So I think that the second bit of an NEI conversation is,
Mm.
what do we want to do with them? What do we want to do with AI? Because if we
Yeah.
don't have an answer of what do we want to do with it, then we cannot use that tool.
Okay. So tell me, what are we going to do with AI?
What are we going to do with AI?
What are you? What are you doing? Maybe better. What are you
What
doing at the moment with
right.
AI? And what do you
Let's
think we should probably be doing?
so let's start at the very basic point of what do we do with AI. The first thing that we do with AI is try to streamline our mundane tasks. You know, those things that we don't like doing, like writing emails. How does what do I use AI for to write my emails? I turn not to write any more emails. I actually turn most of the time to
Right.
dictate an email to an AI. The AI composes. I review that email. Send.
I still need to correct. You still have to prompt, so that means you still need to write something,
No, I do
and
that
it lies into the
verbally.
prompting. So,
I do
yeah,
that
yeah, yeah.
verbally. I do it on a microphone. So I actually dictate it to it.
Oh, okay. All right. Okay. Okay. Yeah. Of course you
So
can. Yeah.
I don't write it. I actually go write an email to Martin Klassen. I want to actually discuss this next interview that we're doing together. I want to know the subject that we're going to discuss. Send
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
amount, and the AI does it for me, formats it for me. When you're working on your second language, and English is my second language, this is a really time saving tool.
Hmm.
It does save me loads of time, and I absolutely adore that, the fact of doing that mundane task for me. I use it quite a bit for research. So I build up project folders within the AI, my AI of choice, and actually then say, well, look, this particular bot is going to act as a lighting agent or a lighting person, and then it has this amount of experience, and it actually based all of its knowledge on this piece of information, and then I ask, say that I want to research, I don't know, um, the anything. What did the
Dinosaur.
dinosaurs do before they die? Yeah, and basically I've asked the AI to train as a dinosaur expert, and then it will tell me back. You know, it will actually start giving me facts of what they were the last things, what was the last supper from the dinosaurs, and all of that. So doing research, doing
You do that with
digging out.
ChatGPT, the research, or are you using other tools?
I currently use, because of my company policies, we are quite restricted of what we can actually use or not use for work. So I obviously
Right.
experiment on a personal computer, but I also, when I'm working, I have ChatGPT Enterprise, which is probably the latest version of ChatGPT with a full package around it. So it
Right.
has DALI, it has Sora, it has other
Yeah.
canvas and other and other services that ChatGPT brings, but it's actually ring fenced, so the information is actually kept confidential. So I can actually handle confidential information within ChatGPT Enterprise without having to share it with the world.
Right.
Because obviously, as you would understand, that we do things that are
Of
confidential
course.
in
Yeah.
our
Yeah.
jobs, and our clients would
Yeah.
be happy if we disclose that information into different AI services. So I use that quite a lot. I experiment a lot with the visual side of AI. So basically, I use Mid Journey, I use Runway. I try to explore. I'm trying to get to a point in which our lives becomes our presentation life. You know that we have done many presentations,
Mm.
and we actually love the movement in the presentation, and we love the visual engagement in the presentation, and we live
Right.
in a world of Instagram now. So we live in a world that images move and flick and move quite quickly, and our I look at our lighting presentations generally, and they're quite static. So I'm trying to get a little bit more of a different way of presenting through AI at the
Right.
moment, which I'm exploring. And I have to admit, Martin, I have not refined this, but I have actually got to the point that I actually don't present static images anymore. I kind of animate them through Runway in my presentation. So I use that quite a bit, and it's quite interesting. The problem with images and moving images and generating moving images in AI is that it starts deforming objects, and I'm not a I know there are some certain people that do it in a marvelous way. I'm not one of them, but I'm getting there. No, I'm actually playing around and trying to get to that
Yeah.
sort of image movement within the AI world that I'm exploring. Um, and then there is the use for AI of, which would be probably the iterative design conversation,
Mm.
when you kind of have to bring a lot of options. So giving the machine an option and say, look, give me the lighting design for this room, or I
Mm.
assume that I want a lighting design for this room with
Yeah.
downlights and buffer detail, and I want some uplighters here and there. Just give me some other options, and it would quickly give me options on the way that I actually could approach the lighting to that space. Now, I could think about those options on my own. Obviously, I've been doing lighting design for so many years, but sometimes the quirky nature of AI, the hallucinations of AI, actually open another dimension, and
Yes.
give
Exactly.
you
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
give you an option that you have not thought for, and it's kind of ridiculous, but it's lovely at the same time. So it's
Yeah.
another thing that I use
Do
AI.
you challenge your designs as well using AI? Because I think that's another opportunity that we now have is just feed the design into the AI tool and ask it to challenge. We are currently doing some research, and I'm talking about the AI course that I'm developing at the moment. One of the
Yeah,
things that we are trying to figure out is whether we can input like a dialogues calculation for argument's sake, and then see
Yeah,
whether AI can say, can we improve this? How can we make this better? But I think it would hold for any sort of design proposal that you make, that you can actually challenge your own design creation. It's like,
yeah.
how could we improve that? Or are there any weaknesses in this? What works or doesn't work? Are you doing that as well?
Yeah, we do that, and we do that in artificial lighting and in daylighting too. So we use the basics of what we have been doing pre AI in parametric design with Rhino and Grasshopper in order to, for example, just actually build up a room and say what's the most efficient opening that I can
Mm,
have as a window in terms of, I don't know, thermal comfort and heat gain and
mm,
daylight penetration, and basically we
yeah,
have used, I don't know, Grasshopper and Rhino for many years in giving us those numbers. You have to think that we are an engineering firm, so our numbers are quite important to us in many ways.
yes,
And So we have been playing with them for many years. So AI actually brings another level of joy to that, and another level of speed.
yes.
And yes, definitely on the artificial lighting side, if you don't remember wrong, Relax used to have this tool that you can give them in a rectangular box, not the most complex of geometries, but in a rectangular box, it could give you the
Yeah.
most efficient way of
Mm,
actually placing your luminaires within your plan. And I think that that was pre AI, So yes, we have
mm,
been playing around with that. And challenging design through AI is quite important. In the same way that doctors uh, challenge their findings with AI.
mm.
You have heard that doctors, for example, they have a scan and they're actually searching for, I don't know, tumors or things like that. And they go like, well, have I actually looked at this X-ray properly? And the AI
Yeah,
will actually say, well, you haven't looked at this bit here. And actually, you might
yeah,
want to
yeah.
look at that because that's kind of not very common. But in order to actually get to that point, Martin, as you would know,
Mm.
you have to train your AIs, and
Yep.
that's a critical thing. And an AI is nothing more than a tool that learns. So if you actually teach them the wrong things, it will give you the wrong
Mm.
results. In the same way that if you
Absolutely.
input the wrong parameters into a lighting calculation, you will get the wrong results, and would
Mm.
be meaningless. So it's important that we train our models in the most appropriate manner and by the people that know the subject. So
Mm.
any mistakes, what I do find out is that any mistakes that you make on training your models, yeah, or your agents, then cannot be erased from their memories, and it keeps on
Yeah.
repeating, and it feels that you need to restart training something different in order to get the right result. So all of your work can go quickly to the bin if you actually make a mistake on that front. um,
Mm.
I Yeah, I think that data sets are quite critical. So basically, having the right data to inform these AI agents is absolutely a
So
must.
you mentioned training. So are you the only one in the company doing that? I would assume that you're not the only one, and
No,
that you have
no,
your
no,
whole
no.
team on this. So I can also imagine that um the you I don't know whether you have like an office model and a personal model, because you can train, I guess, on your personal data that you want whatever AI tool to follow. But if you use an enterprise version, I don't have an enterprise version. I have just the pro version. But
Yeah,
you train. I'm just a starter, so I'm training it on
yeah.
myself. I can
Hmm.
imagine that if you have I don't know whether the enterprise works as a collective, so that multiple people can use the same tool. So the
Yeah, well,
training
you can
is more
share
like a
them, isn't
group
it? You can
training.
create a bot and then share it with other people. So yeah, you can actually train an agent or a bot, and then that share it with other people within enterprise. You can do that. You can do that in pro. I can actually share information with you that I want to share with you, or a bot that I want
Yes.
to share with you. That shouldn't be a problem. Yeah, they are compatible. So in that respect, so I can actually
So
interchange things from pro
can
to
you
enterprise.
uh, maybe explain a few of the training things that you're doing? How do you train that to do it exactly what you want it to do, or to make it machine learn what what you want the AI tool to become? You talk about agent. Are you really already creating an agent, or is it just a way? I mean,
We,
people talk about agent as an autonomous tool, but I would imagine in this case you're talking about an agent as something that you have trained to
yeah,
do
it's
what you want to do.
more starting with the bot concept and then trying to get it to go to an agent. But the bot concept is basically you as you know you have your GPTs, yeah. Just create your own
Yeah,
GPT. It's
yeah,
exactly that. That's what I'm trying to say. What we do is we create our own GPT. Our GPT, for example, can be say that you wanted to create room data sheets.
hmm,
So what you need to embed into the bot, into the GPT, is the knowledge of where they need to actually grab the parameters in order to create a room data sheet. So
hmm,
you will actually connect your the knowledge of the AI to the standards that you need to actually comply with, and you will feed all
hmm,
of that, and you'll say, look, from on a room datasheet level, I need to get this parameter. So basically, I don't know, illuminance levels, glare, yeah, all of the parameters that we use to in lighting, and from there on, the machine will actually start understanding how to get you to that point. So basically, then you will upload a drawing. It will say you will have, I don't know, you have, say that you're in a hospital. You have a clean room, you have a treatment room, you have a, I don't know, an operation theater.
yeah,
Then the and it will just tabulate in a table very quickly all of the levels and all of the parameters that you need to hit within each one of those
right.
rooms. That is an enormous time saving bot, for example, for us. So basically, we use that on a regular
So that,
basis.
yeah, but I can imagine you can also create your spec sheets and other documentation as templates that you can just call
Yeah, we
back
are.
if you
So
want to.
we are quite. So we have actually done a swimline diagram of all of our processes. Yeah. So this is
Mm,
outside an AI. So we done lighting design. What do we do? Yeah. From the moment
yeah,
somebody tells us
mm,
uh, we have a job for you.
yeah,
we,
yeah,
we would like to discuss this. What do we do? What sort of information? What sort of information goes
right,
out in what sort of program? Who gets
mm,
involved in it? So we have actually done a swimline diagram of all of our processes. And
mm,
we are trying against each one of those processes different AI tools. Now, we haven't yet developed a tool, an AI tool that assists us with each one of those processes. We're miles away from some of them, which are the ones that we would
yeah,
really like to have. So, for example, I would very much like AI to assist us with the Revit uh, integration of our design. So if we
integration,
had a
yeah,
model, if ideally if we have a model from day one, how AI can actually start populating things in a logical manner for us, because that's a really
mm,
time consuming exercise for anybody at the moment. And
mm,
we're trying that relationship between the calculation program and Revit and how they link together. We seem to be modeling and modeling and modeling and modeling, and AI doesn't seem to be able to help us. So we do a
yeah,
model for a calculation, and then we populate a model like if it was a drawing, which is really uncomfortable. And why are we not
right,
using the same model? So that
right.
streamlining all of those processes and getting AI to help us with all of those processes would be the
Ah, I
future.
see.
So that's what we're exploring. But in
Yeah,
essence, on that streamline diagram that I was talking to you about with all of our processes, what we are testing is against each one of those processes and what can we use and what technology can we use and what tools can we use in order to actually make them more efficient and
yeah,
better.
and I think the thing is that today it might not yet be possible, but tomorrow it will be. I mean, it's developing and evolving so fast that it's whatever we have in mind that we think will be able in the near future will happen. I'm pretty sure of that. It's just a matter, like you say, you need to get your hands dirty and play with it and explore. But then you have um, also, I mean, exploring things within your enterprise. platform is one thing, but then exporting it to a client is another thing. So I would imagine that you have some checks and balances there in how, what is it that you can use towards your client. You probably need to excerpt things, and maybe some you don't want the client to have, and some things you might think are private to you. So
I think
how
that
is that
we are, Martin,
process
in
of
that respect,
extracting that?
we're quite transparent with our clients. We have systems in place to make sure that all of
Yeah,
our information, in the same way that you have IT systems, to make sure that all of our information doesn't get leaked
yes, yeah,
and doesn't get compromised. Um, and therefore, that's why we work with enterprise, which maybe is a lesser. It's not the pro version. It's probably a step behind, but what gives us is a
yeah,
ring fence of the information and making sure that everything is secured within our own
yeah, yeah.
service. So that is quite critical for us. So and then
You know what I
that
meant, Juan, is that you, if you do it on an individual basis, you control what you put out there. But if you have a team, you still need to have a unified company
yeah.
restricted or company managed output. And the bigger your team, the more complex that might be because people may go in different directions. So I mean, standardizing the way you present to your client. That
Yeah.
was more what I meant.
Yeah, well, it's part of the quality management that we actually do. So any
Mm.
company, any large company, you would know, we have quality management rules and basic quality management procedures that we need to follow, and we actually do the same with AI. So AI is no different to any other things that we do. We had to. There is
Yeah,
something.
but it's a bit
There's something
more
quite strange
complicated to
because
control,
in a
right?
world that is never evolving, yeah, and you
Yeah,
want people to explore tools, it's very difficult to do it within a multinational company, you know. So that's where you actually have dedicated exploration and research machines, and then you have your day-to-day machine, you know, in which you can do your job
yeah,
in a secure manner. But that comes onto the professional. The way that we handle information needs to be very very much controlled, because if not, we would be
yeah,
leaking things that we don't want to leak. So, but at the same time, you want to encourage your design team and your people to explore things. What actually surprised me, and I'm going to go back quickly to one of your questions that I don't think I answered, which is you said to me, does your whole team works with AI? And we work at very different levels, you know, and in very different ways. And I encourage them to work with AI. I actually go like, please use them. We have loads of options within the suites that we have within Holy for them to actually play with.
mm,
But sometimes they don't find it's like with everything. Sometimes a tool is not useful to them, and they actually might choose to do it in a different way and without the assistance of an AI. So that's a choice, you know. And
mm.
I don't think you can push people into AI. I think it's a pity if people do not go
No, they're
into
ready
AI,
when they're
because
ready.
the thing.
Yeah.
Exactly, Martin. It's the same thing that happened with, I don't know, AutoCAD. You would actually said
Mm.
to people at some point there were people drafting drawings and doing lines and working on them,
Yeah,
uh, and, and and those people thought that they could keep on drawing by hand, and some of them were reluctant to actually engage with AutoCAD. And at some point,
yeah,
nobody was
yeah,
drawing anymore, and everybody was drawing in CAD. You know, so it happens with every single tool that comes into the market. You know, people would
yeah,
have said
yeah.
the same thing from the internet, from Photoshop, from every single calculation
Yeah,
programs. People used to do lighting
and some,
calculations by hand.
yeah, some people are more comfortable than others. I mean, some are sort of naturally flowing into it. Others, I mean, I'm
Mhm.
literally old generation. I started when we even didn't have computers. So, you know, this, my first encounter with a computer was a huge mainframe that was sitting in a big room where you had to do punch cards and things like that for lighting calculations. But
Yeah,
that's well, okay. We talk. I'm slightly older than you. I won't disclose my age, but
51.
but so how many people would you say are working on AI now, in percentage wise? Because of course I imagine you still have a bit of a dedicated team. Yes, you can encourage everybody, maybe even on email level. That's but even actual design production. that might be a different sort of approach.
How many people from my team, or how many people within Horley, or how many people in the
Oh yeah, of
world?
course. Okay, well, just expand. Well, what is
So
within
of my team, so
within your
that's a
context?
really interesting question. I've actually I don't have a. I have to guess the answer of all of the three questions. Obviously, the world one is I don't know. I
Yeah,
would be of the 7 billion people that we are. I don't know how many people you say. I guess that a lot. Um,
yeah.
but on my team, so I have a 20. We're 25 strong in our team, and I think
Mm,
on a daily basis, I would say that probably 70% of our team engages with AI. Um,
mm,
Pretty sure that everybody has engaged with AI in one way or another within our team, and some
mm,
people do more regularly than others. As I say, some of us use it
mm.
all the time.
Yeah, yeah,
For
yeah.
me,
I mean,
for
it's a
me,
bit addictive. Let's face it. Once you get onto it, it's like it's hard not to use it.
absolutely, absolutely. I use it
Mm.
as a search engine. I don't search anything else in Google anymore. I just search in ChatGPT. I find it easier. I find that the questions easier, the answers easier.
But even if you use Google search, you get into Gemini. It comes up with the first thing that comes up is
Absolutely, yeah.
is a Gemini answer, right?
Yeah, I don't even
So
like the I don't even like the expression of Google anymore. Basically, Google gives me, I don't know, 100 results with three or four ads in the middle, and I got to go, I need a phone number. And I go to ChatGPT, I dictate to ChatGPT, I need the phone, I need Martin Klassen's phone number, and it would just give me your phone number, not a lot of ads and a lot
well,
of.
soon you can even use my voice. I'm currently cloning my voice. I have about the first clone, and I want to use it to do an ebook so that my books I can read them, but I don't want to read them. So I'll get my cloned voice to read my books because
That's very good. You see,
writing a book is
those
one
are the
thing,
those
but
are the that actually I find that fascinating. I really what you're telling me is so enriching, Martin, because it's endless the amount of opportunity. I've never thought about actually. I particularly have a problem with reading because I read very badly. Imagine when you're reading on a second language, my eyes go completely crossed. But I
mm,
adore the narrative of a book, so I adore the
mm,
stories behind the book. Now, what you just
mm.
told me opened my eyes like that, because it's great. And I never thought about, oh, why don't I actually train my AI to have my voice and then give them the books and read them back to me? That's perfect. It's an audio book with my own voice, which is great. It's
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, soon you can read my book or listen to my book with my voice.
exactly, exactly. Reminds me
But
of,
I'm like you. I I followed an AI course earlier this year that really opened my eyes. It was supposed to be a 3 hour course. It ran out to nearly 4 hours, and the opportunities and the things that were possible that blew my mind away. And that's why when I dived head in to develop this AI course, because I think people need to understand what's possible and get over the threshold of angst and the threshold of fear of what it all is, and just see it for what it is. And then of course you need to make up your mind of what's good and bad about it, and not forgetting that it is an assistant, and you really need to make sure that you keep the creative control and the creative mastership about what it all creates, right? But yeah, I think
yeah.
the opportunities are endless.
So I'm doing a course called AI for business value. And it's actually a mix between AI and a business course, which is quite interesting
Right.
in its own right.
Mm,
It's an apprenticeship by Multiverse, which is a very basic course on both business and
mm,
AI. But one of the things that is quite good about that course is first that everything in the course within reasons and within the right parameters and the right way of doing it should be and could
mm,
be run by AI. So there is no you need to read this book. It's you do whatever you want. You
Yeah.
give me the solution however you want. You use the AI however you want. Even if you want to play back everything that AI says to you, obviously there is a risk in doing that, and we all know it. That's completely
Yeah.
acceptable. So there is no, this is a task that you should be doing on your own without AI. It's AI is there. It is like if nobody's not allowing you to use a pen. Here's a pen or a pencil, and
Mm.
AI is a pencil. Use it. Um,
Yeah,
and,
but
and another thing that we learned is that notion of making sure that the data sets are
yeah,
correct, and that the, the reasons why you're using AI, that you have a reason to use it. That what do you want to
yeah.
do? What bit of the lighting design process do you want to streamline, and then find the
Mm.
right tools to do that.
Mm.
It's quite an interesting course.
Well, I started. I'm still love sketching, and I'm on the. I don't know if you have the same thing, the Remarkable tablet, where I can still draw, but it's now digital, right?
Yeah,
You know the Remarkable. So and now I've started to do a sketch and then input it into an AI tool and ask it to develop it further just for my sketch, right?
yeah.
So that's also
And
opening endless opportunities.
it's great. It's absolutely great. Everything is. So for example, one of the things that so when you go into a meeting, you take notes. Yeah.
Yeah,
And sometimes you do take notes by hand, and sometimes you type them in. I tend to take notes by hand when I'm in a meeting.
yeah,
But before, I
yeah.
actually used to look at my notes and type them back and play them back to, I don't know, a client or my colleague or whatever. Yeah.
Mm.
I now take a picture of my notes, upload it into ChatGPT in this case, and I extract the text, and I have them all typed in.
Yeah. Well, you can also ask to make an audio version of it so that people can listen to it. They don't even have to,
Yeah.
right?
I haven't done that, but
Yeah,
yes, we can. Yeah.
yeah,
It's
yeah, yeah, yeah. We can.
those
In
are all
fact,
of the.
I interviewed someone recently, and it was also about an hour interview. But I asked Notebook LM to do a short version of it, either like less than 15 minutes summary, and then you get two people talking to each other, and they in a very very concise and great way. You can just listen to the summary in that way. I don't even
Yeah.
have to look back. I wanted to ask you something about copyright and intellectual property, because obviously, as designers and creators, we always look at that element.
hmm
Um, how do you see that within the world of AI?
But it's quite a complex subject, isn't it? Because AI,
Mm.
for example, AI in Europe, there is the EU directives on AI at the moment, so there is meaningful
Oh, there is.
legislation
Okay.
about their
Yeah.
use, but there isn't in the UK at the moment. So it's we're evolving on all of that subjects,
Mm.
because I think it's quite critical that there is a degree of ownership, especially when it comes to creative material.
Mm.
I
Mm.
think I think there is something in there that needs to be legislated, and I think it will be legislated properly. So if you ask me, I'm quite careful with that, because when you're extracting and you're generating, I tend to generate my own work. I've actually tried, but I'm sure that the model have learned from other people, and I wouldn't be able to tell if I'm actually
Yeah.
infringing a copyright or not
Yeah.
on a particular text, because I wouldn't know what the combination of words that other people have used to actually talk about a particular subject. Um, so it very much, everything that goes out, and I
Mm.
stress this out, everything that goes out that was created by AI needs to be stated as with the AI assistance. You need to actually, we need to write into a fee
Yeah. You need to
proposals,
declare it. I think
into
you need to declare it. Yeah.
into the contracts that we go into, that we are going to use
Mm.
AI in that work.
Mm.
It's
Yeah.
absolutely fundamental that is the
Oh,
case.
so
Yeah.
your case is actually in your contract. You already put in your
We
contract that.
we 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 state that we would be, or we could potentially be using. Yes, we just need to
Yeah, yeah,
start
yeah.
doing that, because if not, it would be not being very clear on the way that we are working
No, I
with
think we
with
need to
our
be
with
honest
our
and
clients.
transparent about these things. Yeah, I agree. I agree. It's and now is the time to start mentioning that. I think because most people are starting to get familiar with it, and there's also ways to potentially protect your work in case of non-payment. Like now, we could potentially, I don't know whether you know, but it is something that's being explored by putting all your deliverables in the cloud with a subscription link. And
Hmm.
if you don't pay your subscription, you don't have access. You cannot download it. You can only work in there. You can see everything. But if a client, for argument's sake, would not pay, then you can't access the work anymore, right?
It could
We
be.
all experience situations where clients are tough paymasters, and sometimes they want everything for free, or they want everything and they don't want to pay, or they are very difficult
Hmm.
in payment. But potentially through AI and to this kind of digital cloud situations, we could better manage that our whole payment schedules and all that.
Yeah, I suppose that probably something that other companies will start actually exploring, and I wouldn't be surprised if companies
Mm,
that have to do with I don't know, law companies, law firms are actually already looking into how that works, and how they can bring a service on the back of that. Um,
mm,
yeah, yes. In terms of copyright, just to wrap up the idea, is very simple, Martin. Everything that I send is my responsibility, regardless of how I actually create it or not. You
yeah,
know,
yeah, that's true.
whatever I use to create it, if I press send on an email, nobody's pressing send for me on the email. Yeah.
Mm,
So if I
mm,
created an email with AI that says all sorts of horrible things, it's me sending it.
mm,
So the one thing that we need to be careful, in the same way that we are careful with anything that we do, is that when we actually press send, that is a piece of
mm.
information that we agree with. Um,
Yeah, yeah,
there is
yeah.
there is no point of blaming. There's enough law cases
No,
already in court.
it's part of your professionalism, part of your integrity,
Yeah,
and transparency. I think in order to do business, you need to be in integrity, also for the longevity of your profession and your relationships with the client. I think that.
yeah, and also it's very dangerous. There are many law cases already of people that actually say, "No, well, sorry, I was actually doing this with an AI." I was, well, who cares? It's your responsibility.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, exactly,
it's like
exactly.
say, look, I didn't draft this because I was drafting it in AutoCAD or in Revit, or I was actually creating this model in Revit. And I'm
Yeah.
sorry, it's not real because
No,
well,
no, I mean,
it's your responsibility.
exactly, and it takes years and years to build up trust and respect, but it can be destroyed in in minutes. So you really have to be very careful on how you
Absolutely.
treat your relationships in that respect.
Hmm.
I wanted to make a little sidestep to Lux Futurum. You are
Yep.
a guest speaker on the Lux Futurum platform.
Yep.
You will be doing one of the promo tours in China, and thank you for that.
Hmm.
Um, what does I mean? You know a little bit more about Lux Futurum now. It's a platform and a recognition program that aims to recognize future ideas, future concepts, future projects, products, things that sort of embodies the spirit of the future, new innovations. And we
Hmm.
really want to bring that to the foreground and give people the ability and opportunity to promote and share their ideas. And not only that, the winners that are being shortlisted are then invited to the final event at the end of the year to actually present, because we feel that the learning experience and the knowledge sharing about why something was a selected winner is as important as just selecting it, because we want to share that information. What is it that made that so special?
Hmm.
I just want to hear a few insights from your point of view, what you think about Lux Futurum and why you're so nice for us to support it.
Oh, first, I want to actually thank you for the invitation. I think supporting any platforms that are actually looking at innovation is key to any development of any profession, not only in lighting. I also really believe in the crossbreed of specialisms in terms of how they integrate. So this sort of innovation platforms will allow people to start thinking a little bit outside the box, and not only in lighting terms, but in lighting terms connected with other elements and how they all. And I think that that brings another level of innovation and design and development. I've heard some really interesting talks about people that were doing innovation in not only in lighting design terms, but in artificial intelligence terms in the 1970s. And if those peoples would have had these platforms at that
Yeah.
particular point, maybe we would have
Yeah.
actually engaged with AI much earlier, and we wouldn't have the winters of AI, as they call them, where people just say, "Oh, we can't be bothered with AI anymore," and they'd stop researching and they stop developing, because we lost 20 years in doing that, you know. And
Yeah.
now,
Yeah.
20 years, losing 20 years or not losing 20 years, who cares? But I thought
Mm.
that we would probably have a different way of working already if AI would have been developed around the 1970s and 80s instead of actually being stopped and frozen on an AI winter, you know.
Very likely. Yeah.
Um,
Very likely.
so those platforms, these platforms like Futura, and are the places for people to speak, to amplify what they're doing, to
Yeah.
capture more imaginations, to capture more funding, to capture more track
Mm.
speed. And I think that they're fundamental. That's why I support them. You know, and that's
Mm.
why I like to
Really.
participate on them. They enrich me, Martin. That's the thing. You know,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
listen to people innovating, speak, and they enrich me, my persona. I love that.
Absolutely.
I actually have to
Yeah.
say that it's great, because in the same way that this conversation has enriched me with the,
Yeah.
you know, when we're talking about your book, that you're reading your book to
Mm.
yourself, it's great. You know, it's fantastic. It is fantastic.
You'll be cloning your voice very soon.
I would definitely. Why not? Why not? It's used in some medical. You know, there are some really bad health conditions that actually people lose their voices, and the people record their voices to then
Mm.
be able to play them back. How good is that? You know,
Mm.
how
Mm.
how really good is that? And actually, to be using it without my need is not that because I don't have a voice. It's because I really don't like the
Mm.
process of reading. I love reading, but I don't. I find it painful in my eyes and in my head. Um,
Yeah.
and it's great that somebody or my own voice reads it back to me. You know. I find
Interestingly, in
it.
last year's submissions for Lux Futurum, there was hardly any AI related submission. Um, Quite surprisingly, but I would suspect that this year, with AI taking such a flight, that we would have more AI related entries. I hope so. I haven't seen any yet with AI, but I would imagine. And this year, we're also specifically asking all the entrants to list and declare AI tools that they may have used in the
Yeah.
submission. Because I think for clarity and also for educational purposes, it's important to understand what is humanly created and what is created with the help of AI tools.
Yeah. I think
Yeah. So
it's actually. I think it's actually good to actually. I think it's necessary to declare what you're using as a tool. Um, the reality is that I would guess that most of the people have used AI last year. They just didn't declare it, or in some cases they even hide it, because they
yeah.
think there is a notion, and it's a really interesting bit of a conversation, which is a notion that everybody that is using AI is cheating. We need to move away from that. Everybody that is using AI is using a tool that is powering and amplifying what they're doing. They're not cheating, you
No.
know.
No,
And
but
it's quite
specifically if you declare, I think if you declare that
absolutely,
sort of circumvent that idea of cheating because you know I'm honest, I'm using this, I'm still the
yeah,
creator in chief, but I'm using this tool to help me. Another point that I wanted to highlight is that one of the goals of Lux Futurum is also to bridge East and West. You know, China is the birthplace of, where most manufacturing of the lighting technology is being done. I
Yeah.
mean, most of our light is all coming from China. 90% is all made there.
Yeah.
And if not the full fixture, the components are coming from there.
Yeah.
And there is this notion also, like you said, that China, they are copiers and they're not really, at the forefront of everything. But that has changed dramatically. China is very much an innovative country in that term. They, in some aspects, are ahead of the Western world in terms of digital integration, use of AI in many applications.
Mm.
And we felt that there's this apprehension about China. I mean, I've been coming to China for many, many years, so I don't have that. I know these lovely people, and they have moved things forward quite dramatically. And I think the ability to connect East with West through this platform is also what drove us to develop this.
Mm.
I would
Well,
imagine that that's also something that you can see.
learning from others, yeah, from other cultures, from other people is absolutely critical for any big shift and big development. I always use the same example. Christopher Wren, which is the architect of St Paul's Cathedral and of the Sheldonian Theatre in Oxford, one of the did the master plan for London the after the Great Fire. Um, he is one probably the most recognized British architect in history. Yeah, and when you look at his work, you will understand that he had actually in some way looked in depth to the Romans and the Greeks, and he actually did. He went on tour around Europe, continental Europe, observing how these people before him have built buildings, and learn from them. And he
Mm.
uses all of those techniques in his design. Now, when you look at something like the Sheldonian Theatre and the ventilation in the Sheldonian Theatre, not even the daylight, which is absolutely glorious in a space in a country that is today is
Yeah,
sunny, but it's usually overcast. It's incredible, and he used all of the techniques that the Romans and the Greeks have used before him, and make
yeah,
them
yeah, yeah,
better. So when the conversation about copying happens, and I do copyright is a different conversation, yeah, but learning from others and again bridging that gap between cultures and bringing them together and sharing their knowledge is absolutely fundamental. We grow together. We don't grow. Human beings cannot grow on their own. They never could, they never will. Even when the most brutal bit of our history, when there were invasions and I don't know, when the Romans invaded, yeah,
mm,
they learn from the other cultures and they actually share their knowledge with them, or in a very violent way, but they actually did it. And it's fascinating. I think that it's celebrating this sort of events is important,
mm.
Martin, because it's not
Yeah.
just a place where people show their innovations and try to get a prize or try. It's they're sharing knowledge. We're coming together. We're sharing knowledge, and
Exactly.
everybody's a winner.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And you said very rightly, you have to learn. And we say also often you have to learn from your mistakes, but you can't make all the mistakes yourself in your lifetime. So you have to learn from other people's mistakes as well. But
Absolutely.
at the same but at the same time, you also learn from the good things what people do. So by looking around, you absorb that, and there's no doubt that you see things, and then somehow subconsciously you may use it in your own designs. It's logical.
Yeah.
Um, Listen, I would like to wrap up with asking you: is there anything that you would like or wish that we can do in the near future with AI? Looking ahead to the future of our profession. I mean, you and I are seasoned lighting designers, and
Mm.
um, this whole AI thing is gonna dramatically impact on what we're doing. You have gone through that in some of your expressions just now. Is there
Yeah.
something still on your mind? You think, oh no, this is really something that I would love that we can do soon, or is maybe something you can already do some sort of parting message that you would have for the new generation of lighting designers of the future.
I'm I wish generally, and this is something that I speak with my designers quite a bit, which is I wish generally that they allow themselves to play with light more often than
Mm,
not. We are lighting designers. We spend quite a bit of time behind a computer doing things for them to enable the play, and the play seems to be a really really small portion of our job.
mm,
I
mm.
enjoyed and I enjoy the most when I'm actually seeing lights play around me and
Play
I'm
with it.
playing with them, even touching them or looking at them or experience them or
Mm.
setting levels. And I wish that AI enables us to do much more of that by doing all of the mundane tasks for us, just streamline all of the time that we spend in front of a computer trying to convey a message that will enable us to play, to be able to allow us to play with light. So if you're a lighting designer, you like playing with lights, and therefore you need to be playing with light
Well,
more often than not. And AI should actually simplify that. Um,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
on- I think that that's what I wish for. I wish for, and I think that across any specialism, I think that if AI can actually bring that level of joy of enabling people to do what they're best at doing, which is in our case is lighting design, that would be brilliant. I don't want
Because
AI to do lighting design for me. It's the opposite.
no,
I want
no, no.
AI to actually make my lighting design better. It's not
Yeah.
AI is not going to replace lighting designers. They're not.
Mm,
Nobody will be able to uh,
mm.
be replaced when they have that wealth of knowledge in a particular subject. So we have developed apps in the past in early
Yeah.
2000s, which we actually created a picture and people can actually plot lights onto a building and illuminate them. They're not lighting designers. They don't know. They don't have an inclination to do that. They don't have an inclination even to play with it. So it's not that an AI will resolve the lighting design for them. It's not going to happen. There will always be the job of lighting design will exist.
You
Um,
brought an interesting topic there because we didn't discuss that, but the fact that you need hands-on experience to see what light does. Um, I think we always said in our office, don't specify a light that you have never touched or played with because you wouldn't know. It's important to really have that touch and feel
yeah,
and understanding visually and touch and feel type of thing to understand that. So that's something which, because certainly if you talk about the experience of lighting, you can go into a VR or AR side of environment and do some virtual reality with playing around, but that's not the same.
it's
And
not the
that's a
same.
bit the risk that lies ahead is that people are going to experiment with lighting in a virtual space, right?
Mm.
Rather than actually feeling it as a human being.
Yeah.
And I think that point that you bring up is a really powerful message. I think we need
Up, up,
to make sure we keep
as a very small image, yeah, as a takeaway, if AI can actually get us out of sitting in front of a computer to be able to play with
that.
whatever we like to play, in my case, lights, that's a win,
Mm.
isn't it? And I think
Train your
I,
AI
I think
model
we're
to
heading
tell
there.
you. Train your AI model to tell you to get out and play with light.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, just say, don't worry. I'll deal with all of the nonsensical bits of your work, and you go and play with light and be a better lighting designer. I think that's what I wish for. On a last note, I'm exploring the imagery that AI can generate. Especially, I have explored in depth the the static imagery that AI can generate, but the moving images is what I'm actually focusing at the moment. So that's an advance that I've seen. So I've seen AI now actually understand in image terms text, so they can actually incorporate text in a way that they couldn't a few months ago. The moving images are happening, but they're not there just yet. So I'm really looking forward to the next 2 3 months in which all of these AIs are going to be developed and probably feed into a
Maybe we should
production
have
process.
this chat again in a couple of months and see how things have
Yeah,
evolved.
Yeah, definitely. Let's actually we'll have it in Light Futura. So basically, we'll definitely
Absolutely.
talk about this sort of things with some visual material there.
Well, creative minds like you and me, we trigger each other, and every time we say something, and it opens up another idea or another thing that we want to talk about. But I'm gonna wrap it up. Juan,
Yeah,
it has
let's do
been an
that.
absolute pleasure to it has been an absolute pleasure to talk to you. And thanks for your time and sharing your insights.
Well, thank you, Martin. Thank you for the invitation. It's a pleasure to me to actually speak with you all the time.